Welcome to the Modern People Leader. Mai, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Stephen? How are you, Daniel?
Doing well. It's
Doing
Friday.
well.
Can't complain.
Right?
Holiday weekend.
Yeah, I have
So
a
we
4-day
gotta,
weekend. So
Oh, lucky,
yeah,
lucky.
I know.
yeah, me too. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about the 4-day work weeks. But one of the things that is amazing is when it aligns with a holiday weekend, because it's like an added bonus.
Hmm.
So as you know, Mai, we have a lot of traditions in the Modern People Leader. And the first tradition is how we kick off the conversation. We like to start with what we call good news stories. We share a personal work related story, really any good news in your life or in the world that you want to share. Just gives us a way of reflecting and giving a little gratitude to what's going on in our lives. So, who wants to kick us off today with good news stories?
I
Oh,
can
I'll
kick us
just
off.
go.
Oh no, you go. Go for it, Mai.
Oh, it's very, very small, but I love moments where somebody will reach out on a Slack and share a quick photo. And that's what I got this week. Somebody reached out on Slack, shared a quick photo of me from a long time ago. And they said, thank you for helping me with my career. And it was just sort of like, I had no idea I helped this person with their career. And so it was like a lovely moment and a gesture of gratitude that allows me to love what I do for a living.
So this is somebody that you've never worked with, that you now work with at Fabric, who you didn't know that you had this impact on.
No, somebody from my past that I did work with. I
Oh,
didn't
got
realize
it.
I impacted their career in the way that they sent me this nice note. So yeah, just it's funny. You don't realize how many people you touch over your life.
Yeah,
Especially as a people leader, right? In HR, we just kind of assume like we do the things we do. It's part of the day job, and that is really really nice. So that's going to be hard to top. So Daniel,
No,
I
Daniel
think.
had a good one, apparently. Yeah.
well, okay. So I guess my good news is I think this is the first time that we're interviewing somebody that also went to the University of Texas. So both Stephen and I went to UT, Hook 'em Horns.
That's it.
Um,
Hook 'em.
It's
basically like
crazy.
mine. Yeah, yeah, Hook 'em
But we
Horns.
can't say small world, right? It's like a school of whatever, 70,000 students or something like that each year. So yes, but still a small world that we're here three together. And none of us are wearing burnt orange. You can't
I
tell that
know.
we're from Texas, actually.
Well, I think that leaves me. My good news is personal, and it is today is the last day of school in Austin. And it's been, if you've stayed connected with the news, it's been pretty traumatic and sad week in Texas at schools. And so condolences to all the families out there. But it's the end of the school year for my two daughters, and it's been an awesome year. It's been it's the first like post COVID, the first full year that they've been in school post COVID, and it's nice to now transition into the craziness that is summer, the non structure of summer. So we're looking forward to it. So the next thing that we want to get into, Mai, is we want to talk a little bit about you. And you have an amazing background. Just looking at your LinkedIn page, you have been a people leader at a lot of amazing
It just
places.
means I'm
And
old. It's just me being old.
and so walk us through your career journey, to, as Brene Brown puts it, what's your story? Tell us, share some of the highlights of your career and where you're at today.
I love what I do. And like most people, especially liberal arts majors, I fell into the work that I do, right? You have to reinvent yourself and retool yourself. The world is changing, and there seems to be still a lot of chaos, social and political unrest. And now we had the shooting. I just don't know what's happening in the world. And so I do my work because I get to impact leaders in the future, as in I want to create the leaders for the future, because the way we're working, the character traits that we have today are just they're not turning out the way we want. I have a 14-year-old daughter named Emma, and I just want her to have a really good manager. So yes, you're right, Stephen, I have the wisdom and experience and gray hairs of being in a lot of tech startups where I love to build. But I really dig hearing people's stories because, I'm usually the first one to hear about weddings and engagements and babies, but I'm also the first one to hear about illness and divorces and death. And so that is all of us living life at work. We just happen to work together, but we're living life together too. And so I feel very fortunate to have been the people leader, and I still am learning from everybody around me.
And I'm just curious, do you fall into the bucket of the accidental HR professional, or were you kind of intentional, leaving college, starting your career? Like which bucket do you fall into?
Definitely the first one, which is accidental. I used to be, right, Stephen? It's so funny.
Me too.
Yeah, you don't know where your career is going in your 20s. And one of my first jobs out of college was I was an analyst for an investment bank. And investment banking is very harsh. It's a very grueling profession, long hours, lots of pay, but just heavy toll on your mental and physical energy. And luckily, I had worked with a banker there, Peter Hunt, who wanted out of that lifestyle. And he said, you know what, I want to just go form my .com startup. Just come with me, be my first employee. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm an investment banker though. So just come with me and help me start the company. And so I took the plunge with Peter and we looked at dishes. We opened up an office. We looked at, benefits and how we were going to hire people. And that's where I fell into HR accidentally, is just learning how to do all of those things when you start a business.
And in your journey, I'm a big believer that there's like one or two pivotal moments or maybe micro moments that all add up to like this big kind of shift. Was there anything like that in your career, or, has it just been a pretty steady journey?
Well, Daniel and Stephen, the funny thing about being older is that you can't remember anything.
So my girlfriend calls that selective memory though.
Same here.
But it is funny. There's probably some etched in moments that stay with you forever. And there's probably like a couple of them that I can talk about openly. And there's probably a couple of them that I'm like, wow, I never want to share that out loud. But yeah, I will say that adversity in the end is what defines us. It's not all the good times and when the rainbows and the sunlight are shining on you. It's actually all the hard stuff of like, oh my gosh, did I really just say that out loud? I was like, oh, I'm the worst HR leader. Sometimes I curse and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. But yeah, I have many of those moments, of course, that we're talking right now. I can't remember them. I can't remember them. I wish I had something more like powerful to say.
It's so true. It is the hard moments or like the big mistakes or like brain farts. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. Like I should have thought about that ahead of time. So that totally, resonates with me.
And I do believe that cursing is part of the HR practitioner's job description. So I think that's just part of how we get through it. So
sorry, that was my outside voice.
I know it's still early days. So you're in a new role, right?
I am. I work for Fabric, which is enabling on demand for everybody. And the funny thing is, we're still coming out of a pandemic, but our consumer habits have changed. We want everything faster. We don't want to go to the stores, or with all the supply chain crisis, we're solving a last mile problem of getting you what you want and getting you what you ordered online. But it's a hard problem to solve. And I'm 30 days into my new role. I love it. I love the team.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. It's real world problems that are very sophisticated, and I feel lucky to be there. And I have no idea. I continue to say this, but I am the dumbest person in this room, because they are very, very smart people trying to engineer a solution for the rest of us.
Well, first of all, I doubt that you're not the smartest person in the room. But second, I do have a use case for your product. Can we get it all a little bit cheaper also?
Yeah.
find a way to to make everything a little
Yes.
cheaper.
That's what we're
But
solving for too. Because Stephen, you're right. You shouldn't have to pay so much to
it's
get
crazy
it
right
on
now.
time. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, one of the questions we like to ask, and like I said, I know it's still early days, but what is it like to be a Fabric employee so far, and why should we be jealous that you get to work there?
There's this great combination of people. And I've been a people leader for so long that I appreciate people's talents and skills. But there's three skills here at Fabric that are wonderful. And I don't know their magic, as in I don't know how they found these three skills in all of their people, but I see it every day. The first one is they're smart. The second one is that they're hungry. They're tackling a real world problem and they're hungry to tackle it. And the third thing is they care deeply. And those three things may be easy to say: smart, hungry, and caring, but they're very hard to orchestrate in a company. And so I feel like I am very lucky to be amongst a crowd like that. And I have a lot to learn about all three of those dimensions.
Yeah, I feel like those are I don't know, as you were listing off those three skills, I was, trying to think about the company I work for, Humu, which I'm also very excited, enthusiastic to be here. And I feel like I've had a great experience. And I feel like it's a lot of those same skills. A lot of really smart people that are kind
Mhm.
and they just want to do good work. And I feel like it's as simple as that. But it's hard to, you know, make sure that you're bringing in the right people that have those three skill sets. So yeah,
And
sounds like
Humu's,
you've landed at a great place.
Humu's a good place too. Laszlo, they know what they're doing over there, Daniel. So
Yeah, and so you mentioned at the end of the day, we're all humans. We're not just employees. We all have these stories, and as an HR leader, it sounds like you're the first one a lot of times to hear these stories. And sometimes it can be hard to bring these passions or these stories into the workplace, like everything that makes us human. And it can be so easy to define ourselves by what we do, by our job. And something that's been on my mind a lot recently is how important it is for me to try as hard as I possibly can to not do that, to not define myself by my role at Humu. I love Humu, but I have an identity outside of work. And over the past 4 or 5 years, I've really tried to figure out what that identity is. Um, but I mean, I get it. It can be so easy to fall into that trap when you're working, 40, 45 hours a week, and that's most of your waking hours. And when we caught up a couple of months ago, before you took this new role, that it sounded like that was something that was on your mind, that you felt the same way. And for me, there were a few things that led to that conclusion. But I'm curious, what led to you having this realization that your identity shouldn't be wrapped up in solely the work that you do? um
yeah. Um, Daniel, when we met, in the US, it's typical to introduce yourself as I do such and such for such and such company, and this is who I am. I've learned that the rest of the world doesn't introduce themselves like that. I had a chance. Three things happened. One is I burnt myself out. Startup life is really hard. And so all of the work and mental exhaustion from being a people leader finally caught up to me. So I just, for my personal reasons, I had to reset. I was like, what am I doing? Is this going to be the rest of my life? Why do I feel like this? And so that was a moment of reflection of why the heck am I working so hard? Like, what does this all mean? So that was my first moment. My second moment was meeting other people in the world. I've had the luxury of working for global companies. And so some of the people that I know, they don't introduce themselves at all through their connections to work. I've met people who introduce themselves by saying, hi, I'm Ori. I'm turning 40 this year. When I started here, I had no kids. And now that I've been here for 7 years, I have three kids. And it's sort of like, wow, that was actually wonderful. It gives me much more of a sense of what matters to Ori. Same thing with Jack. I'm, turning 60 and I have 4 kids and 2 grandkids. And it was sort of an aha moment of, yes, that's who they are. It's not what they do at work. They just happen to have a job. And so I started using that for myself, which is I'm an author, I'm a mother, and yes, I just happen to be chief people officer at Fabric. And luckily I love what I do, but like you said, Daniel, I get to hear the stories of what makes up your life. And it's typically not the waking hours that you spend at work.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a generational thing, but so for context, I'm 28, and I feel like when I meet other people my age, almost nobody talks about work.
Well, the funny
So
thing
I
is,
don't,
do people introduce themselves by telling them, you just said your age to us, but I don't see many conversations like that either, right? Especially from,
yeah,
there's a gender dynamic where women will not disclose how old they are. And typically, I don't know if it's a generational thing. I'm glad to
yeah,
hear that you talk about things outside of work, but very
yeah,
interesting that you just
I
disclosed your age, right?
I typically
yeah,
know if I am surrounded by people that are enriching my life based on what kind of questions they're asking me. And I don't know if it's a generational thing. I think there are some people that are defining everything by work and the output of work, which are things like with work. I
yeah.
work so I can get money, and with money you can buy things, and it's like,
And like
oh,
achieve like a certain status in life.
right. And
Yeah,
I know if I am having conversations like what we're talking about, like, oh, well, what do you do for a living? And it's like, oh, where do you live? And that is a superficial situation for me that is not going to, I may not want to invest more time in this group of people, especially now that we have to pick and choose our social interactions a little more carefully because we're just not out as much.
yeah,
But that's been because even at my age, I'm 46, and I still find myself in that conversation. And it's like, why does this even matter? We're just
yeah,
meeting.
I know
yeah,
it's so funny what you say though, Stephen. I, I turned 50 this year, and I will tell you that I don't think I have a lot of time. So I don't know why everybody else thinks they have a lot of time, but I don't want to be wasteful with it. I want to spend it with people that
Mm-mm.
I am inspired by and love working with, and hopefully get some sleep. So I'm all about anti-hustle.
yeah.
Like pulling an all-nighter, good for you. I would never do that. Nobody does well with sleep deprivation, and it's not a badge of courage. Like that doesn't impress me at all.
I had a Yeah, I met up with a coworker today who lives in San Francisco. He was here in Austin for a workshop, and he's on the engineering team. So I never really get a chance to hang out with him. And we went and got coffee, and it was great. And one of the questions that he asked was, "So, what are you thinking about when you're not thinking about anything?" And I was like, "Oh, that's such a great question. Like, it has nothing to do with work. He's trying to like learn more about what I'm passionate about." And I don't know, I just thought it was such a beautiful question. We ended up having, a great conversation for like 30, 45 minutes. And I don't know, I feel way
What did
more
you say?
connected.
What was your
I was
answer?
gonna say, you can't hold out. That's a
Well,
deep question.
I told him that I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up.
Mm.
And I get a lot of joy from doing things like podcasting. And I don't I basically I don't know what to do with that. Like like this is what I get joy from. This is what I have fun doing. Things like this. It doesn't have to be podcasting. I'm sure there are other mediums for this, but I don't know if it's like creative expression. I don't know if it's connecting with people. I don't know if it's storytelling. I don't know if it's all three of those things. But that was sort of what we were discovering together in the conversation that I was having with him.
Well, I'm glad you're finding it fun, because it sounds like even though this is work related, that you actually do enjoy the stories and getting to know people and connecting the dots. I hope that it continues, and that, yes, the podcast and all of these things flourish. But Daniel, you're young, so just keep exploring, right? The dots will eventually connect at some
I,
point.
I, I'm just curious. So, Maya, how would you answer that question? And
Oh
if
my
you need,
gosh. well, my
Oh,
favorite question is like, if I didn't have to work, like, what would I do? Because
uh-huh.
I don't know what I don't think about. Like, I, I don't know how to answer that question when
It's
I'm not
obscure.
thinking about something. I don't know how to answer that. But when I think about how I would spend free time or what I would do with my life that I haven't been able to do yet, is I would just travel and write about it. I love Lonely Planet books and kind of figuring out and getting lost in cities. I think meandering through city streets is actually a wonderful experience. I once got on the
Yeah.
bus in Paris where I was like, I don't know where I'm going. I'm just going to hop on the city bus. And I ended up in the neighborhood where there's a Statue of Liberty in France, in Paris, as the um, a gift from the US. And so it was just sort of like, wow, those are the moments that I would love to write about. And I think that when you travel, it brings more perspective to your life of what's important, reprioritizes how you're spending your time and who really matters. Because when you don't get outside of your own like blinders, you don't recognize what's happening around you and how beautiful life is around others that get a chance to enjoy it more often.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of I don't know, maybe it's my friend group, but a lot of, friends of mine uh are sort of like discovering what life could be like if they just, go all in on the things that they enjoy and, basically build their lives around that. So for example, I have a buddy that moved to Mexico City for a year during the pandemic. I have a friend that moved
Yeah,
to Lake Tahoe and he was
awesome.
skiing every single day during the ski season. I have another friend that moved to New York. I have another friend that's a very serious boulderer. So that's like a form of climbing. And he travels around the country to boulder. And when all of those people that I just mentioned are considering choices that they're going to make in their life, big choices like where they're going to work, these are all things that they're taking into account and are like the highest priority for them. Um,
That's
so
awesome.
I don't know. I just feel like this is going to continue, and I think that the companies that have their eyes open to this are going to attract the most talent. Um,
Yeah, it's
but
funny. They don't call it the great resignation as much anymore. They call it the great reshuffle. And it's funny because I think people are finally discovering themselves and
yeah,
perhaps they're not delaying what they really wanted to do or where they really wanted to be. So love your friend group for being courageous, brave to do all these new things in this current
yeah,
state.
yeah. Um, so if so many people define themselves by what they're doing in their 9 to 5, is there anything that companies can do to encourage their people to maybe try to discover themselves, to try to find those passions, to try to redefine themselves outside of work?
Well, I think of maybe a couple of things. I had the fortune of working at Kickstarter, and Kickstarter about a month or two ago launched the 4-day work week, which is not 4 10-hour days, but it's actually 32 hours a week. The studies have shown that you're actually more productive when your brain can rest and when you get enough sleep. And so Wolf Ozrak owned all of the materials of how to shift your mind to thinking that, you know what, you can probably be more productive if you're focused. And here's what would you do with the 51 Fridays that you have back in your life? And 51, because usually at Kickstarter, they had the week off between Christmas and New Year's. So the company had given off 51 Fridays. What would you do with your time? And we started to get photos of, people taking ceramic classes, people learning how to be their own baristas, people going to the beach with their kids and families. It was just a wonderful recognition that, yes, you are more than your work and you should have hobbies and a life outside of your work so that you don't burn yourself out, so that you don't keep hustling with no end in sight. So it was wonderful. And I hope it's going well at Kickstarter because I think the world has changed. I don't think we
Yeah.
celebrate the things we used to, including, pulling all-nighters to launch that next product. And I don't know, I've never had work-life balance or work-life blend, so I don't know what it means, but I I appreciate companies that understand that I am a mother and I have a life and I want to spend more time with Emma, and get to her volleyball matches and such. So I think I think, Daniel, you're right. Those are the companies that, if you can offer flexibility and freedom, kind of the WFA acronym. Have you heard of that yet? WFA?
No.
No.
Oh, so it used to be WFH, which is work from
Yeah.
home. Now it's
Work from anywhere. Okay.
anywhere. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. We're connected
Yeah.
on, technology, and laptops are all you need. So yeah, just an amazing difference.
Well, this is perfect, and I apologize to both of you in advance because I'm going to go a little bit off script here, but I think a question just jumped in my head, and I think the question that Daniel asked is like, what could companies be doing more to kind of embrace this non-work centric view of life? And I guess my question is, do companies want you to embrace a non-work centric view of life? And I say this, and I was just like quickly typing with one finger in my phone to try to pull up the article, but one day ago, Business Insider reports execs at Davos conclude forcing staff back to the office full time is unrealistic. Like, no shit, guys. Like, where what bubble have you guys been living in? Because like, and that just tells me, and sorry, I just slammed my phone down because it's frustrating, right?
Yes.
That there was this effort, over the last 6 months to force us back. And, I guess my question is like, do companies want that? And I guess that's a like loaded question, but what needs to change, or what needs to happen in the world in addition to what's already happened for us to kind of, realize that things can be different and still work.
Stephen, I can feel your passion. And if I remember, you're a parent as well. Is that right?
I am. Yeah, I have 2 daughters. They are 12 and 10.
Yeah. So you've been fighting this fight of like, hey, I want a little bit of life and time with my own family and children. So I can feel that energy from you. And I think that you're right. Traditionally, this is how you did it. You paid your dues. You got to work hard and you put your head down and you pull long hours in order to get promoted. I actually think perhaps companies may not want to do this and offer the freedom and flexibility, but if they don't, they will lose their employees. And I think that's a big problem. When you start retention risk, it's already the great reshuffle, right? People are kind of like, what the heck am I working for? Like, I'm gonna stop being a product manager and just go back to chef school where I wanted to be a chef. And that's the reality. And I think companies that don't absorb that and don't recognize that are just going to lose over time. They're going to lose the battle for talent. So
and what do you think that looks like? Do you think that's like going to be a slow progress, like this very slow process where executives are finally realizing, genie's out of the bottle. We can't force people back into the office. Do you think it's going to be a slow process, or do you think there are going to be like events that trigger this shift in the mindsets? Because that's really what we're observing, right? Is a fundamental shift in power away from the companies and the executives that are running the companies to employees that are demanding these things, that expect these things.
Yeah, and I think because we work in the space that we do, we get the chance to impact change, because I do think there will be a tipping point. I think it's a little bit slow. People are still tenuous. Companies are trying to reframe, like, is it hybrid? Do we demand things? Do we change and rescope our offices and redesign them? So I think a lot is still in flux, but I think one of the reasons why I love doing what I do is because I get to pioneer things. And one of the things that I'm trying to do internally is share my story of the need to be more than my work. And so a lot of times, Stephen, when I share that I'm working hard for Emma, I'm working for, to share my experiences. Like I try to do these podcasts to share my painful lessons with others so that you don't have to learn it the way I did, which was the hard way. I fell down a lot of times. And so if I can share those lessons, makes you more human. And then people connect to you a little bit more. And then they realize, you know what? Yeah, I don't need to be here. This project will be here for me tomorrow. So maybe I could just take a walk along the beach today. And remember, I'm the one that hears about the divorces, the illnesses, the stories. I've had to look up so much online to understand the diseases that people have, because I'm surprised at how sick we are. And
Yeah.
so this is not sustainable. And yeah, I just want people to see themselves differently when they look in the mirror, because they are more than just their job.
Yeah, I agree. I was just thinking it's, so relevant. So this week at Humu, we had a talent show, Humu talent show. And it was amazing seeing some of the talents of my coworkers, whether
What
they
was
were
your talent, Daniel?
I didn't do this because I don't have any. Even what would have been my talent? Like shooting 3-pointers? I don't know. I mean, I guess I could
You
have
do
done
have a
that.
nice floater. You do have a nice floater. I will say that.
Yeah,
You,
but no,
you
like
two played together one-on-one. Who wins?
I mainly get beat, and Daniel has blown by me, but this is before my old ankles started giving out. So
yeah, but no, like
Sorry.
just to see that some of my coworkers are, they play the cello, they're singers, they can play the guitar. I mean, some of them were just really goofy and just made a compilation of them doing hula hoop. Like, but just the fact that they were able to kind of, not take
Yeah.
themselves too seriously.
I
And
know.
I don't know, it was a good reminder that they're just like normal people like me.
At Fabric, we have an accordion player. We have a former F-16 fighter pilot who is now a painter
Wow.
that works for us. I mean, it's crazy, the collection of talent that you get in one person, because you have no idea that they're doing these other things,
Yeah.
or that they have these other skills. Because at work, all you do is either write, read, do slides, or stay on your
Yeah.
laptops. You don't recognize that. Yeah, you know what? Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, like the guy I met with today, his name is Kevin, and he's one of the engineering managers. And he was sharing how he aspired to be a professional ballroom dancer growing up. And I was like, what? Like, I never would have pictured that. And now that I know that, I almost picture him more like doing a salsa or a merengue than I can, picturing him behind a computer coding. I don't know. It's just funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, earlier, Mai, you mentioned being a pioneer for change, that being, one of the aspects of our job that you're being a modern people leader that you appreciate. And, obviously we've talked at length now about how we can open up time so that we're not so focused and rooted in work and what we're doing at work. An intersection of the two of two of those two topics is the 4-day work week. And we talked a lot about in our catch up a couple months ago, how when you were at Kickstarter, you launched a 4-day work week. And if you're okay sharing, I would be curious just to hear, like, what were some of your learnings, and, were there any pitfalls or challenges? Were there guardrails that you had to set up for success? I have a lot of questions, and I'm a big believer. I was not originally, and Daniel would be the first to point that out. But now I'm a big proponent of the 4-day work week. And so tell us everything you've learned.
Yeah, I was not there when they did the final launch, but there was a lot of work that Wolf and I had to do to get ready for the launch. And there were other people involved, John, Wolf, I can't even name them, Diane, I can't name them, but we had to reset how we saw our work and how we saw ourselves. And I published it was a top 10 default list, where traditionally you defaulted to having meetings, right? It's sort of like, okay, now the world turned remote, so everybody's on Zoom or Office or Google Meets and Hangouts. Well, one of the defaults was, start async first. Maybe you don't need to have a meeting, because meetings interrupt your flow. Like if I call a meeting with you, Stephen, all of a sudden I'm interrupting your day when you could be doing something else. Because the whole trick of a 4-day work week is that you need focus time, because in that focus time, you can do a lot. But if you keep getting interrupted with Slacks or meetings or emails, you can't focus, which is why it extends your work life. And, you know, I'm trying to remember the top 10 list, but one of them was everything has a deadline, but nothing is urgent, right? Because you know what the deadline is. And if you give yourself enough time, you can reverse engineer how much you need to spend to get to the deadline. But that doesn't mean that just because I slack you, that's urgent. It's not urgent. Like, hold steady on your boundaries so that you don't let people distract you. I think one of the third things was something like set your own boundaries. Like, tell people this is when I'm working. So you can set on Slack your working hours. You can set emails to like know when to allow other people to know when your working hours are. And because the world changed remotely, we had a lot of people working in disparate locations. And so your working hours may not be my working hours. As a matter of fact, even at Fabric, they have, or we have an Israeli office, and our team sits all in different places in the US. And so our working hours are very hard to coordinate. And even that small gesture of telling us when your working hours are was helpful when setting meetings or when sending Slack. So there's a lot of little things to readjust your mindset that we had to prepare for. That was helpful. And I learned an expression the other day, which I love, because this is the start of us changing the way we work, which is no agenda, no attenda. As in, when you call a meeting, right? If you call a meeting, you
I
got to
love
give me
it.
an agenda, right? And if you don't have an agenda, I ain't attending. Like, that's it. You got to tell me what the heck I'm
Let's
doing
steal
in this
that.
meeting. Yeah, and it's
1,000.
yeah, and so it's funny and it's also effective, right? It's sort of like, yeah, you got to tell me what the purpose of this meeting is. Otherwise, we'll just talk and then we'll leave the room and then forget the takeaways or forget or be confused about what I'm supposed to deliver. So yeah, just Stephen, I know you're curious about it, and I wish I would have stayed a little bit longer, but my new company Fabric used to have a 4-day work week, so it's very interesting. And I will I'm on like day 35 or something like that, but I want to understand what happened to it and what they found in their own experiment too.
Well, yeah, and I think it was Darren Murphy at GitLab when we had him on. He shared that GitLab's perspective is, or it may have been David Hanrahan, but work is getting done at the company 24 hours a day. This is a global organization, but
Yeah.
no one is working 24 hours a day. But it's like this notion that work is always getting done, and we are organizing ourselves to work within that flow. My words, not theirs, but that's kind of what I took from it, and I think that's right. But one of the things that you need to have in place is empowerment to set boundaries, which is really, really hard to do. Another reflection I had while you were walking us through that, the experience at Kickstarter, was around meetings as a last resort. One of the, it's been a huge success at Workify, and we're 3 months in, maybe 2 months in. And for me, the biggest challenge is, as CEO, I'm in so many meetings that, like, when do I get my work done? Like, I'm a big believer in servant leadership, and my job as CEO is to unblock everyone else at the company and enable and provide the tools and resources they need to be successful. But that means that as a function of my job, in that kind of highlight of my job description, I'm meeting with people a lot. And when there are concerns and issues, like, it's usually a conversation. And so I think that is like the one thing we could do better, is almost re-examine every single cadence that we have. Because we didn't change our cadences. Some of them we had to, obviously. Any meeting we had on Friday had to be adjusted to every other week, and or just move to another day. And so I think, I can apply this meetings as a last resort lens to all of the cadences that we have, and really make sure that we are freeing up time to get in like the key work and really focus on what matters most.
Well,
And go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. I appreciate your servant leadership mentality, because I do think it's hard. And you, Stephen, have this particular role of CEO where you become either a blocker or an unblocker. It's just binary. So I appreciate that you actually try to unblock around you. And I think that takes it's hard to navigate. And I appreciate that you stay in meetings, and you strike me as the type that you stay focused and present during meetings. You're not multitasking or anything, but that's the hard work, because I think tone starts from the top. So set the example that you want to see, and you'd be surprised. People and employees I've seen mimic the behaviors of their top leadership teams. And so, yeah, start experimenting. I think it's wonderful. We have all of this reset to kind of say, like, let's re-examine what we're doing. And with so much technology, we're more tethered than ever, right? I can take
Yeah.
my phone wherever I go. And if I just need to respond to that quick email, text, or Slack, I can. And that's what's leading to the blurriness of personal and professional lives, is that we'll go on vacation, but not really go on vacation.
It's
Which,
not a day off if you're waiting by your phone all day, or you're checking in on your phone 20 times a day, just to see, okay, did I have a client request? Is my manager checking in on me? Or,
I have to delete my app. I have to delete the Slack app whenever I go on PTO, because
oh,
otherwise it's just a bad habit. I just have to go onto Slack every
I know.
15-20 minutes, just like a reflex.
Slack is awesome because it's the quick and dirty, like really cheap of like, hey, I just need a quick answer. But it's also terrible because you're like,
Yeah.
that the quick answers, like the additive effect of this, I can just do quick, 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 ends up being like 50,000 Slacks later. That was where my day went.
Yeah.
So quite disruptive, but it's so effective.
Speaking of technology or of tools, are either of you Clockwise users?
Oh yeah.
Steven, if you're not on Clockwise, you need to get on Clockwise, and your whole team needs to get on Clockwise. And this
what
isn't
is
even an ad.
Clockwise?
So everybody hooks up their calendars to Clockwise, and you can set how many focus hours you want a week. You can set when you take your lunch break, and you can set your working hours. It then shuffles around everyone's like one-on-one meetings that they have throughout the week, if other people are also on Clockwise, to accommodate for focus hours, for blocks of time. And so it automatically puts, let's say you need 8 to 10 focus hours a week. It'll block that out in your calendar for you. It'll say focus time. And it's just so nice when I go into my calendar and I look and see what my coworkers are up to, and all of them have like focus time. It's like, oh, we're all on the same page.
And the funny thing is, you get a report at the end of each week that says, you know what, you had 0 focus time. Or
that
you've been
happens sometimes.
one-on-ones. Yeah, you've
That
been in
would be
45
my
hours
result.
of one-on-one. So it's really amazing, the tools and technology. I've been, I just started my new role at Fabric, but I also use Toggle, if you've heard of Toggle, Toggl. It's a time tracker where you can understand where you're spending your time, which I need
Oh,
to
that's
know.
right.
I need to know where I'm spending my time, because I need to be anchored at the right altitude. And sometimes in the day-to-day job, you're just like, here's a tactical piece, here's something that I'm doing. And over a week span, you're like, I never got to the thing that I needed to get to. So it's fascinating that these tools exist to help us make better use of our time, which, like I said, I don't have a lot of time, so I need to know where I'm spending it, and am trying to figure out where I make the most impact, so I can kind of strategically structure my own day in the way that I think would output more from me.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It,
love tools and technology. Hulu
yeah.
is great. I had it at like 2 of my previous companies, and it's just a little quick nudge of my, did you check in on this yet? I just, yeah, those are the little moments that I love.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's funny. One of my coworkers, she is such a big fangirl of Clockwise that she ended up doing a testimonial, and I think she was like on their homepage for a little bit. So yeah, lots of love for Clockwise at Humu.
Well, I'll
So
definitely check it out. I need that in my
yeah,
life for sure. Our team needs that in our life.
yeah. So Mai, last year you published a book called "Come Into My Office: Stories from an HR Leader in Silicon Valley," and it's a year later, and I feel like all of the themes that you covered are still so relevant. So I know we don't have much time left, but could you share a little bit about the book?
Yeah, working as a people leader in these fabulous tech startups, I have a lot of stories. They're like crazy things. And the book started because I needed therapy of just like, I need to bang on the keyboards to capture this story before I forget it. So I'm just like typing away what happened. And then as I burnt myself out, I was like, you know what? I should turn everything that's on my laptop. I have this book on my laptop. I was like, I should do something with it. So I took off the time to reset and publish the book. Um, and um, it is the story of my life as a people leader, just all of the stuff that you don't get exposed to because I don't typically share and name names of the things that are happening. So I scrambled all the dates, I scrambled all the characters, but I told the stories of what really happens inside Silicon Valley because it's such a unique place. But the funny thing is I got one of my CEOs reached out to me on LinkedIn and he said, Mai, I read your book and I know exactly which stories are mine. And
Oh no.
I know. And I said to him, you're
That's
lucky.
awesome.
Well, I said, you're lucky I didn't tell some of the other ones because there's, yeah, I'm just, it's funny when, like I said, when you face adverse moments of which I was not in a good time frame when I was burnt out. I wasn't my best self. I was probably really bitchy, really demanding, really inhumane for being a people leader that I forced myself to do something to reset because I knew that wasn't the way forward for me. And it's not the way I want to come across in the world, especially raising Emma. So I switched. There was something that switched that year. And so I'm happy to report that I'm fine. The book is selling and I appreciate the chance to be on your podcast to talk about it. But I received an order the other day from like a company I'd never heard of, but they wanted like 800 copies. And I was like, I don't even know this company. I don't know what it is. I didn't write it for the money, but it's funny because I'm happy to share my lessons. And it's kind of nice to feel that my work is going somewhere.
So it's a cathartic read for HR leaders.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was my own therapy and it's my therapy out loud with all of you to see.
Well, it's interesting because we not only do we share having graduated from the same university undergrad, but I also spent time in investment banking. And I don't know if that it was part of the culture, but the investment bank had a huge impact and a lot of positives, like so many, it transformed my career. But there's also something about that environment. It's like, grinding the axes. And I forget what that like 2000 saying was, but it's like how you cut your teeth and you have to, it feels like you have to be that way. You have to be this like super aggressive, demanding, late nights, early mornings, relentless. And to succeed in that environment, then you leave and it's like, oh, wait, the rest of the world isn't working this way. And I actually feel kind of horrible doing all these things. So I have been through a similar reflection and like period of personal change or transformation. And so I haven't read the book yet, but I can't wait to read it.
Well, thank you for your support. And I'm glad you found something new for yourself because it is a grueling world, but it is sometimes the training that you need to experience life and understand that, no, that's not what I want. And I have a funny story, and I know we're running out of time, but I was on the train from Boston to New York going to our fabric offsite, sat next to a woman, and I stared at her screen, and she was just working on a ton of spreadsheets, just spreadsheets galore, right? So we were on calls for most of the train ride, but toward the end, I finally asked her, I was like, what do you do for a living? Apparently she's an equity analyst. And I was like, oh, that world is crazy. I know that world, and I'm so sorry. And we started talking about it. And I talked about how I used to cry at the investment bank, how I used to pray every day when I was going into work. And she said, I want to show you something. So she showed me her phone. She has a folder devoted to her pictures of herself crying at work. It's a full folder of each
Oh my
day or
God.
when she has cried. And I was like, I have to take a snapshot of your folder because it's crazy. You can see her many expressions, and I just said, you need out of that life. I'm telling you, you don't have to live like this and you don't have to work like this. But it was just a random train ride this past Tuesday. And I just said, wow, perspective, get
Yeah.
out, see more, and know that you're capable of doing more and not having to work like that.
Yeah, I relate to that also. I mean, and I I promise I'll get us back on track here. But there was a point at which, and I'm a big believer in self-care and therapy and all anything you can do to kind of help yourself. And Daniel and I have openly talked about this on the show. But there was a point at which I was so questioning myself, low self-esteem, all of the things that the negative things that came with the experience of working at an investment bank and working that kind of lifestyle. I reached out to like my childhood, my adolescence therapist, and I was like, "Do you know anyone in New York?" Because like I felt like the woman that you met on the train. It's just like every day I dreaded going into work, like anxiety off the charts, tears, like you name it. And so that is unfortunate. It's unfortunate that still persists today in that kind of industry. But
I'm glad you
anyhow,
turned the
that
corner, Steven. Yeah, glad it. Yeah, it's rear view mirror. That's what I say.
rear view mirror. Yep, you got move forward, learn what take what you can and leave the rest type of thing. And so my life has moved on for sure. Well, I think we're entering now. Daniel, any follow up questions on the book, or are we ready to head into the final segment?
I mean, I guess just one question. So I'm curious. I imagine that with your readers, there are different stories that resonate with different people. But is there one story that you seem to get the most people reaching out to you about? Like, oh my God, like this exact same thing happened to me at my job.
Yeah, the funny thing is, um, there's a lot of gaslighting that goes on, right? Because you feel like, is it you? Did that just happen? I don't know what that was about. And I think some of the stories surface some of that of like, thank goodness that you shared this, because I thought it was just me. Or, you know what, the way I get treated at work, I thought it was because I was doing something wrong, but it's typically not. But I think it just exposes people in their true light, especially during moments of stress. And I say this with all respect, but some of the CEOs I've worked for are wonderful, except for I really believe the C in CEO stands for crazy. Like it's crazy what CEOs have to endure and have to stand up to, and they've got pressures and stress and building a business, especially in the tech startups where I was. So I think people get a chuckle out of that because they have their own CEO moment stories. And I think to the HR community, they're like, yeah, this is my world. You captured my life. And so it feels good to give back to the community that's always supported me, but it also feels good to kind of shed some of that, to know that it wasn't me. It was just, the circumstances of work.
Yeah, I think it was Mita Malik that came on and openly talked about gaslighting and toxic managers. And I'm so glad that there is a forum for people to share their experiences, because this is a real thing. And it boggles my mind how the system, continues to promote these individuals, or the system allows these individuals to be in these positions of power. And when they're toxic, like there are psychological, potentially psychological issues there, just based on the fact that gaslighting is a thing, and it happens all way too much, in my opinion. I've been exposed to it also. And so thank you for sharing your experiences, because I think it will go a long way in, making others feel comfortable at like raising this and flagging it, and not staying in these toxic situations that are not serving them well.
Yeah, we all deserve better.
We do. We do. So unfortunately, we are getting to that point in the conversation, nearing the end. The time flies and this has been such a great conversation. I've really enjoyed this one. But we're in our rapid fire question segment.
Okay.
So my first question for you, Mai, if you could go back in time and talk to the 22-year-old you, what career advice would you give yourself and why?
Take it easy on yourself. You don't know where you're going. Just collect all the tools in your toolkit and skills you can muster, and like it's okay. Like you don't have to have everything all organized and prepared.
Soak it all up and learn. Love that. Second question. if you could fix any HR people problem with a magic wand, what would it be and why?
I would love for people to be true learners and be curious and ask questions. What I see today is pure ego of like, I need a title. I want to make VP in 2 years. I need a promotion. I need a pay raise. I need more equity. It's sort of like not, I don't want the world to work like that. I want you to earn it. And I want you to know that, yes, you got to learn some things along the way because leadership takes years to craft. And I wish people would see it through that lens instead of just, promotions and titles. And I need to be a senior software engineer, that I just, yeah, I don't know how to chip away at that, but that bothers me in today's modern age.
I think Katie Burke said the exact same thing. She said it bothers her when people are entitled and think that they just deserve that promotion or that pay raise.
Yeah, it's not a timing thing. It's
Yeah.
you should earn it by being ready for the next level.
Yeah. So we avoid the risk of going into a generational conversation. I'm just going to move on to the next question, but I agree.
That was directed to you, Daniel.
I know.
I love that one as well. +1 to entitlement and fixing that. So when you look around the corner to 2022, what do you see coming next for the future of work?
Oh, more autonomy. And I was a gig economy worker for the time that I burnt myself out. So I was a consultant, hung up my shingle, and I honestly had more variety, had more fun, could swoop in and out and then come out instead of being devoted to just one company. And I actually think that's the reality, is that you're going to be able to find a side hustle like never before. And it's funny that people keep reaching out to me to be a consultant because I have so much experience, which I'm very privileged to have, even when they know I have a full-time job. So it's funny because I'm like, I guess this would be my backup retirement plan. Like I could keep working until I was 75 if I wanted to, with a nice side gig. So yeah, I think that's, the gig economy is real, and it's actually better for employees in some ways to just do what they love, have the freedom that they want, especially for working parents. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how that upends everything we know about work.
Me too. I am such a believer that I purchased Upwork stock at entirely the wrong point in time. I think I've gotten pummeled on that, but it just is a
Play the long
reflection.
game. Long game.
Always. But yeah, that's how big of a believer I am in the gig economy as well, in the side hustling. So we've had some of our best guests, on the show through organic recommendations, and it all comes back down to the next question, and that is, who should we bring on to the show next? Is there one or two people that you absolutely think their voice should be heard? If so, who would that be?
I will introduce you to Ciara Lacani. She's like a MBA, hardcore business folk that is now a people leader. And her point of view is very different from typical people leaders, which has been wonderful. I'll introduce you to Melanie Oberman, who just has a way of cutting through all of the nuance and details. And I can't think of all the other names, but there are wonderful people that I get to be in the same orbit with that I would love to introduce you to. Hopefully that gives you top two on my mind.
No, and they both sound like perfect fits. So we appreciate the intros, and we'll definitely follow up with them. So that leads us to the final tradition of this show, and that is our one word or one phrase close. We all respond with a word or phrase from the episode that we want to close with.
You go first.
Ooh, nice. I'm going to go with one of the three traits of the Fabric employees that I believe is really, really important, and that's caring and care deeply. I'll do both. My one word is caring, and my one phrase is care deeply. I love that.
Daniel, you're next.
This is the first week I don't have anything good prepared. where I didn't like jot down a note because I think I was just, enjoying the conversation. Honestly, I felt like I was just watching. I was like, wow, this is a great conversation. But so, okay, one of Workify's values, if I remember correctly, Stephen, you can tell me if this is still a value, but was hashtag be human. And I feel like that,
You nailed it.
encapsulate a lot of what we talked about today.
Okay, final phrase, be more than your work.
Oh, yeah. What a perfect way to close out this episode. Well, Mai, thank you
Training
so
Dan on Stephen.
No, this is great. This has been an absolute joy. You probably think we say that we end every episode, but I can't thank you enough for fitting us in right before the weekend holiday that we have, or the holiday weekend. It's been a lot of fun. So thanks.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And if I can do anything else to help you, please just let me know. I'm your servant leader too. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And I hope we stay connected.
Absolutely.
so much.
Absolutely. All right.
Talk
Bye,
to you later.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.